Yeah. It's definitely brought a whole different level and dimension to how I like mixing my records now.
So what are you leaving left over for a mastering engineer if you're doing that?
You know what so here's the funny thing, right? So over this year, I have been researching a lot of the higher up engineers. And the thing is, all of them say the complete opposite that we've been given information wise on the internet. So I've learned that unless I'm reading
this
about
is something I've been hearing also from some people. Yeah.
So what is his name? And of course, this sucks that I can't remember his name because that sucks. Not Fabian, not Fabian, because Fabian's dope too.
Serban
Guinea. Serban's partner John has been on Gearspace religiously. John is a wealth of knowledge on him and his partner, and he has let a couple of things slip. The biggest thing that John said that I took to heart and made me stop caring about the loudness when it comes to mastering is John was like, the loudness that y'all usually hear from records that we work on is the loudness that we've left on there. So when you hear a record, usually they might just boost it maybe a partial of a dB or two, like 0.2 here, 0.3. But the reality is it's that and maybe a little bit of other processing. But usually the records sound damn near as close as we want it to when it leaves our hands for mixing. And I took that and said, that's all I need to know. That's it. If it's good enough for Serban, who's arguably the number one mixing engineer in the world, it's good enough for me. Yeah. And if it's not good enough, I'm going to make it good enough. Simple.
Yeah.
They're like, we mix into our limiter and we do all of our processing. And when it's done, we send it off. It's done. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I like that. Because it lets me know that not only do I have control, but I don't got to worry about somebody stepping on what I've done.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And that's the thing.
It's the guy I mentioned already, Andrew Mari, who I interviewed a few months ago. He was also saying how he mixes into the limiter, and that kind of just determines his loudness of like, okay, where am I putting the bass and the kick to, and how are they like interacting, and like how is that pushing the limiter? Yeah, and that's the sound. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's super fascinating. But my pushback on that, as someone who just enjoys working with a mastering engineer, is
I do too. Look, don't trust me. I love Chris Athens is my go-to guy. You know what I'm saying? And Alex Sadarsky, these are my go-to mastering engineers. Like we're talking Grammy Award winning, nominated, God knows how many plaques. Like freaking Chris works for Drake. Like, trust and believe. If I ever have an issue, I will 100% be like, okay, let's fix this. But that's the thing. The fact I love working with guys at that caliber and that level because my philosophies that I've been adopting from higher up mixing engineers are the guys that they work with all the time anyway.
Right.
And at this point, Chris has never told me.
You're shooting for the top, right? So.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Chris has never said anything about my mixes. He's actually complimented me on them. And Alex is the same way. And that was kind of like my like, hey, you're doing the job right. Because I put my faith in them and I let them both know very early on, hey, if you hear something, you fix it. And if it's something that you can't fix, you tell me and I'll fix it now.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I love about the mastering relationship. It's like that just it's a relationship and you can kind of say like, here, how's my mix? Is it ready? Yeah. Oh, like, hey, like I think you clipped it a little too hard on the way back in, like can you touch it back? Whatever. Just having that relationship is so important. I'm hopefully going to have my mastering engineer back on the show soon. And go over some songs I mixed.
I know, right?
It's about time to show some of those to the world. But in any event, yeah. But also the other thing though that would be my pushback is I think what Andrew said that he does, and maybe I would think about doing, it would be to take off the limiter. So push the limiter, print a version with the limiter, and then print a version without the limiter, and send both to the mastering engineer so that maybe the mastering engineer can hear what you're referencing, but then he or she could still leave the box and like hit the analog gear without losing too much of the transients. You know what I mean?
So I used to be like that. I used to do that.
Yeah, go on.
And the reason I stopped doing it is because what would happen is I realized the clients would say little things and they'd be like, okay, cool. I like this. It's a little different. It's a little different, but I like it. It sounds good in this. And I'd be like, all right, cool. And I started realizing that was the difference. That was the biggest difference. So what I started adopting was, okay, should I leave this on or should I take this off? And it just so happened at the time I was really researching that, the interview with John Hayes on Gearspace, John was like, no, we don't take it off. If it's not loud enough, that it was funny. He was like, John was like, if it's not loud enough, they're going to make it loud enough. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And at this level, we deal with probably enough extremely high level mastering engineers that they've seen and heard it all.
Yeah.
I have ultimate faith. And not only that, most of the mastering engineers that I know, they're very vocal. They're very vocal about, hey, this isn't going to work, or yeah, this sounds great, or nah, I can't do this because of this, this, and this. I 100% leave that in their hands. The only thing I've grown out of not leaving in their hands is the final say so of yes, of yay or nay. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's kind of like that's the thing I've grown out of, where I'm here to do my one job and appease the person that's saying, hey, this is good or this is bad. You know what I mean? And that's ultimately it. I love what I do. I love the fact that we get paid to do it. But I also have to remember that the person that's paying me to do that job has this kind of level of expectation. And so like, I got to always remember they're going to take my mix, play it, and compare it to what they hear. And it's the same concept mentally. Like we tell recording when the artist is recording, get the recording to sound as close to you, how you want your finished product to sound as possible.
Right.
Same concept from when we're doing our mix. Get my mix to sound as close to the finished product as possible. And so when a mastering engineer gets it, they're like, hey, we're going to get it as close to the finished product because it's now our time to finish it off.
Right. It's almost like hopefully the mastering engineer is just doing a little bit of quality assurance and nothing else, you know.
If you're doing the job right, you know, like I mean that's the
right.
cool, but that's the cool thing about like you said, the relationship. You know, we're growing together.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
So
exactly.
This person who you either might see or you might not see now starts over the time that we're working together. We develop a working relationship, even though we're not physically able to be around each other. But you know my nuances, you know my quirks, you know that every time you get a record from me that, you know, I like boosting this here and it might be a problem, but it hasn't become a problem where you have to address it with me. You're just like, you know what? He likes doing that and it sounds good. Cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. It's so interesting. It's also like the lines are totally blurred at this point, right? Because we're referencing mastered mixes. Like we don't listen to a mix. We listen to masters when we're on Spotify or Tidal or whatever you're using. You know, that's what you're hearing. You're not, you know. So it's like we're mixing to sound like masters, basically. So it's
that's the thing. Like
it's interesting to be a mastering engineer, I guess, in this age.
Well, you know why? Because but it's cool because it's like, again, it's the part of the chain that helps the quality stay high, because it's like the less processing I have to do, the better the record will probably sound, and the more creative we all get the chance to be. So as a recording engineer, if I did the recording right and it sounded really, really good, and we just have all these effects and cool things going on, it us not having to worry about how the recording sounds frees us up to be as creative as we want to be during the recording process. Passing that on to a mixing engineer, the mixing engineer now doesn't have to worry about crappy vocals.
Yeah.
And not having to deal with crappy vocals frees me up to now deal with all of the cool things I can do to pull a record out to make it just bigger and badder and just sound.
Being creative instead of being a problem solver.
Exactly. And then me as a mixing engineer, because I want it to sound like it's a finished record and I got it nice and it's nice and loud, I send it to the mastering engineer, and the mastering engineer goes, okay, cool. Let's do a little half a dB cut here and maybe like 0.5 on the limiter here just to get it up to minus, 8 or 9 on the LUFS. but it sounds good. Maybe I'll use a little bit of a transient designer here just to kind of get some transients back that might have been cut off. Bam. 3-step process coming back to me. I go, yeah, this sounds great. And we're done because everybody did their job at the best of their ability and at the highest level possible, because we don't got to do a whole bunch of craziness for the record to just be a great record. You know, it was a great record because they started off making it a great record. Yeah. You know, and now we have a great record. So we all look good.
Yeah, it's so true. And I talk about this a lot, probably ad nauseum on this podcast, about just collaborating with other people and not just doing everything yourself. And it's something that's been a big thing for me over the last couple of years, has been like, let's get a mastering engineer in the mix. Let's send these vocals out to someone else for editing. Let's bring other people in on the process, because like when I do everything myself, the quality for sure suffers. And I don't have the same objectivity. I don't have the same zest. I like get bogged down by the things I don't really want to be doing, or I'm not as good at. And so, amen. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. But
hey, team effort, man. That's all. Team effort.
Let other people into your creative life. You know.
Yes.
Don't do it yourself.
Amen to that.
I feel like I left something hanging there with the Ken Lewis conversation, because I feel like you were about to say something else about Ken Lewis's Atmos setup, or maybe his plugin or something. And
let's see. I mean, Ken is just a really dope individual anyway. Like, great mentor, awesome friend. His wife is really, really cool too. Very hospitable. When I visited him at his home, it's been too long, so I'm probably gonna see if I can go visit him like earlier this year. I know he works on all the BTS albums, so this might be the first year that he actually goes to the Grammys. So if he does, I'll meet him in LA this year at the Grammys too. You know, get a drink, get some food, just reminisce, and probably just get drunk. You know, this is the weird, interesting, and fun part of the leg of my career now. It's like a lot of the people I look up to, I still do, but now I get to know them personally. And I'm glad that a lot of the people I grew up looking up to are actually really cool people, that they're really good individuals, and they're really down to earth. They've just lived extraordinary lives because of extraordinary circumstances. And
they're extraordinary to us because we love this stuff, but to other people, it might not seem even so crazy. Oh, yeah. It's like,
I mean, look, the general public knows this is crazy.
Right. I guess so. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Look, the general, it's like, it's weird. So it's like, I'll talk to someone and say, hey, like this year, right? I was up for consideration for a Grammy this year, but I didn't get to the nomination phase. And depending on who I'm talking to, they'll be like, you got it, Will, you'll get it next time. And depending on who I talk to then, they'll be like, oh man, that's what's up, man. Don't even worry about that. Dude, look, I just got my nomination, man. Don't even worry about that. Don't trip. You're going to get here too. And depending on who else I talk to, then they're going to be like, oh my God, how did you do that? You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be somebody's going to be extremely excited and crazy and like, oh my God, how? Versus, yeah, man, you know what? I do this all the time. Don't worry about it. You're going to get it. Yeah. You're going to get it. And that because it's normal to them. You know, like, hey man, I'm gonna hop on this plane real quick and go have lunch with Diddy real quick, and we're gonna go talk about the new such and such album that's coming out, and then I'll be back to New York. You know, and when I get back, I'll go ahead and grab a cab, and we'll meet at such and such studios. What? That's crazy.
What is that world?
Yeah, like that's crazy. It's like, no, dude, it's a Tuesday. What are you talking about? Crazy. I'm just getting back. I'm just coming back from like South America. You'll be fine. Don't worry.
Perceptions of reality, right? We're just different people living completely different experiences.
But I mean,
but it's true. It's crazy. It's like it's so crazy for me just to see. Like, I've chatted with a lot of people now.
Oh yeah, I
bet. and I just I think 8 people that I've chatted with were just nominated just this round for Grammys. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, like, you already have a pretty good chance now of getting a Grammy just because you've been on the show, I think. But
hey, I appreciate that. Look, I'm second time on the show. Oh yeah, I'll get my nomination next year.
Exactly. No, but it just shows you how attainable it is if you keep doing the work and you keep being a personable person and making the right connections and just doing it. Like, I feel like so much of this industry is just keeping doing it, right? Like,
you know what the funny part is when it comes to the Grammys? The Grammys, the perception of the Grammys is interesting in itself, but when you go to the actual Grammys, You know what they give you the option for too. Here's the thing that no one talks about. There's everyone talks about going to the Grammys. What they don't talk about is there's an after party.
Yeah.
The Grammys actually host